First time with what, Josh?
Bill said first time for me with the podcast. So
Oh, sweet.
welcome, Bill.
Welcome, Bill. Hope you're doing well.
We're kind of unsure if this is just a live show or a podcast, but it functions as both. So it is both those things.
Yeah. We always start a little bit early, so if we seem like we're just rambling on here, well, I think most of the show we ramble on a lot. So I guess if you're watching, you should get used to that.
I think,
if you want to.
I mean, we just kind of hang out, right? That's the whole thing. Just two people being themselves. I think we have the most amount of people waiting beforehand to watch.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Sweet. Yeah. Welcome, Darp, and welcome, Carlos, and welcome, Ian, Bruce. Welcome, Bill. Welcome, Peepo. Fantastic to have everybody here. This is great. Normally people like kind of chime in where they're coming in from. I'm hailing in from Ohio. Josh, where are you coming in from, man?
Here from Minnesota. It's been feeling more like winter in April than it did in March, which is interesting. But here we are, hoping for the warm months to come.
Yeah.
Nebraska, right. Hey, Fred.
Cool. Jay Norris is here from Albuquerque. Fred from Nebraska. Yeah, Ian says it's still cold in Minnesota.
Mick from London. People in Switzerland. I don't know if I realized
that.
Oh,
sweet. Awesome. No, I don't think I realized. Darp from India. Welcome, Darp. Kronos from the UK. All right. Zimbabwe. Awesome. Shikaza. Awesome. Welcome. So great to have you here.
Yeah. This is great. For those of you that it's your first time, we took 2 weeks off. Normally we do this every week. But Mike and I had some life stuff, and Mike was on vacation, which I feel like I didn't get to hear much about.
No, yeah, I went to Puerto Rico with my family. It was really fun, man.
That's awesome.
It's funny you were talking about weather before. I feel like we always talk about weather when we start, but and it's not. Like you talk to people you don't know about weather just for small talk. I actually really like talking about weather just for the sake of weather because it affects me. Like I don't know, weather's a lot.
Right.
I don't know.
Coming
I
from
like to complain about it. Maybe that's what my problem is.
Right. It's people do it as like I don't know what to say. So what's going on with the weather? That's something. But you actually I can sense a genuine interest. We also live in like cold states where there's snow, and it can really affect your mental health or just like how the days feel. So it's getting sunnier. The temperature's rising. It's nice.
Nice. Yeah. I bet Ernie from the Philippines doesn't have that problem that we're talking about. Wow. But hey, so you mentioned spring, like I guess we're spring, right? This is spring, legit spring.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, spring's feeling more like winter than winter did or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when it really starts, when you start getting into the tail of winter and the early spring. That's when you're kind of like, you just
it's in Minnesota, people, we pride ourselves on being into weather, and we'll deal with the cold, and we'll even wear like little layers out in the cold, and we'll just like deal with it, and it's like fine. But then for some reason it switches in April whenever it's like this is still cold out like this. It's funny. All my friends started complaining on like the same week.
I know.
Ian said it's been a long winter.
Yeah. But I don't know. No, vacation was good. It was fun to go. Weather was just beautiful every single day. Great breeze. We were at Old San Juan, so we went to Old San Juan for a bit, and it was just cool because it's got that like old European city feel, which like I think is so fun,
Yeah.
And just so different than most U.S. cities that I normally visit. So it was great. I loved it.
Dang, I'm just looking at pictures right now. Actually, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Darp asks what we're discussing today. Well, so far, I guess we're discussing weather. I don't know. No. Yeah. So I guess, hey, let's probably about that time we can go ahead and do our official kickoff. Not that adds any amount of organization to our discussion, but if you don't know me, my name is Mike Chach. I'm the owner of Programming Electronics Academy. And if you haven't heard of the company, it's an online education company. And what we're trying to do is really help people gain confidence when they are programming Arduino, either to like make stuff or build stuff. And so I am joined here today with Josh Gilbert. He is our video producer extraordinaire. Welcome, Josh. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Video producer extraordinaire. I love it.
And kind of like what we're doing here is, so I've got some background in programming Arduino and use it and stuff. Josh is new to it. And so we just kind of like talk about stuff, and hopefully it brings up some interesting thoughts. And like, please, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat. If it gets super technical, we may or may not dive in. Like I only have so much depth, especially on live stuff, and but yeah, so we're just feel free to ask questions or make comments, or if you think you can help somebody who's asking a question in the comments, jump into it. But
did you
so
say that? Did you say the piece that like we have this academy that you run, Mike, but I have like very little experience with programming, so I'm kind of here as the proxy to ask the questions that I think a lot of people ask, but it's kind of like an intimidating field to get into.
yeah, I
Did you
probably
say?
dropped that off. No,
No
I
worries.
might have said that. I don't know.
I just need to make sure everyone knows I have no experience with this before I embarrass myself.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. No, that's cool. All right, cool. Welcome, Daryl from Israel.
Awesome.
So, what are we going to talk about? Well, here, okay, let's see what I wanted to talk about. Okay, big surprise. I want to talk about Chat GPT.
Oh,
Oh man, I'm always talking about that, but
big thing. Yeah.
so they released, I don't know if you heard about it. They released Chat GPT4. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I have heard about that.
Okay. Well, 3.5 is what kind of like blew everybody's minds. That was back in November.
Mm-hmm.
And just like 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, they released GPT4, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about GTP4 is that now you can upload images, and it can extract, it can like kind of like comment on the images basically,
Okay.
which I think is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
I
don't know.
wonder. I'm just checking out. Okay, here we go. So we have like this picture of a bunch of balloons.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wow! What would happen if the strings were cut in this picture and then ChatGPT answers? So it how does it? How on earth does it do that? It analyzes a photo, but it just like is using the internet and like different parts of like obviously there's context in the world of the internet that it can basically use context clues from everything that it's learned on the internet.
Well, from what I
Help me, Mike.
understand, is it's a large language learning model,
Yeah.
and so what it's doing is it's actually predicting the next word it's going to say. That's all it's doing. Like it just predicts one word at a time, and it predicts the next word based on its previous words. And I
Whoa.
think the way it's actually doing it with that image stuff
Mhm.
is, I think my guess is what it's doing is it's sending that to some. I think it's actually using like maybe a separate network, and then it's getting that other image network is like getting the some of the things that are in the picture. Like it's like, what do I want to say? It's kind of describing the picture for it, and then it's passing that description onto ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT's making the word prediction based on that. That's
Yeah.
my guess, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
But yeah. But
Yeah.
so here's what, and I may or may not have mentioned this previously, but what I think will be cool is and you know what Darp mentioned, he said he tried, this is interesting. Darp said he tried Bard, and he didn't find it very useful. Bard is Google's version of ChatGPT.
Really?
Yeah. So I think you have to have an invite. Like I've had an invite. Maybe you can use it. Um,
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Looks like there's a wait list you can join.
Yeah. Anyway,
Cool. Interesting.
but yeah. So I used Bard too. My first impression, I'm kind of with Darp there. I mean, I wouldn't go as far. Darp called it trash. I wouldn't go as far as saying that. Uh, but it didn't seem quite. It didn't seem quite as succinct as, I don't know. It didn't seem quite. It didn't give me that feeling that ChatGPT gave me. I
Yeah.
don't know, but who knows? I'm sure it's just a matter of time before it gets super cool.
Yeah. Interesting. You think that they're just going to come out with these new versions every couple? I mean, it's such a. It is talked about so much. They've got to have a lot of interest in like continually updating it, right? continuing.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the function there is going to be like the amount of investment is just going to continue to balloon.
Yeah.
Like, OpenAI has already gotten tons of more. I'm sure they've gotten tons of more investment, um, based on this, and then that's going to allow them to buy more or hire more developers, which will then, I mean, not to say necessarily that cash flow is going to directly translate into progress. That's definitely not the case, but it's maybe a rough proxy or something. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. So I've been as people who may or may not have been like watching the show or watching the channel, I've been working on a project that integrates ChatGPT with an Arduino or with an ESP8266. Here, let me pull it over here. All right. So I guess you can't. All right. So basically, yeah, here we go. So this is just a little like bamboo cutout, right?
Mhm.
Printed it on a. Okay, I got this other screen up here. Sweet. Okay. All right. So basically, I'm not going to pull it out of here just because I have it all set up or whatever. And I know I've showed this to everybody already. So if you're seeing this for like the 18th time, just be like, oh my gosh, here Mike goes on about this stupid thing. But all right. So this is just an OLED screen right here. Nothing special, tiny little OLED screen. And it's an ESP32 on the back. And oh wow, there's an interesting pause there between the thing because I was just
a
doing
little
that a
lag.
bit. Yeah. Anyway, okay. This is the first time using a separate camera. It's actually my cell phone is hooked up for this camera display, so it's doing it wirelessly too. So it's there's a delay there. Anyway, so it's got an ESP32, and then connected to the ESP32 is a
Keyboard. Is
keyboard.
that a new keyboard?
It is a new, yeah, I got a new keyboard, but it's an old type connection. It's a new keyboard with an old connection. It's called a PS2 keyboard. Anyway, and so basically what you can do is you can type a question, and then it takes the text, it sends it to the OpenAI ChatGPT 3.5 API, and then it sends a response back. Yeah, that's right. PS2 type keyboard, people. Yeah, so that's kind of what this is. All right. Okay. So and when you're working with, so you might be like, okay, Mike, this is like, what's the point? Like, you got a computer, pull your computer out and ask ChatGPT a question there. Like, what's it? Like, why would you do this? You know what I'm saying? Like that video I made where I was kind of talking about this project, like people liked it. I thought a lot of people thought it was neat, but I get that, people are like, a lot of comments are like, well, okay, just pull out your cell phone, do it on that, do whatever. Right.
Right.
And what I tried to explain in the video, and just so like what I'm trying to do is explore the idea of using really cheap wireless microcontrollers like the ESP32, which is like, I don't know, you can get them as cheap as like, I don't know, $5 or something, not even wireless enabled. Right. And then embedding that chat functionality in somewhere interesting where you might not expect it, right? By just exploiting that wireless connection. That's kind of the thought, right?
Yeah.
But that's really just what I'm not really interested in necessarily is like a text display, right?
Yeah.
I've got text here displaying, but what I'd like to do is get the ChatGPT to respond in a specific way based on like input, so that then like the embedded microcontroller can do things based on how it responds. So you tell ChatGPT, hey, you are on an embedded platform with 4 wheels. In order to move left, you have to say left. In order to move right, you have to say right. Those are the only words you're allowed to respond to, right? And then what you do is and I've probably already said this before, Josh, so I'm probably like
no, that's
a record here.
Not
but
specifically. That's really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what you do is now you have the system with the camera on it.
Yeah.
Just a small little camera, and those are cheap too anymore. You can get like ESP cam, that's like a little camera embedded on an ESP30 with an ESP32 board. And now what you do is you take a picture of where the robot is that has wheels, right? And then you tell the robot, move towards XYZ. Like you just tell it, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking to this robot, okay, move towards the chair or move towards the person wearing the red coat. And they've got the picture. And then the question becomes, okay, based on that picture, can they somehow, is there enough like context there
Wow.
of the world for the embedded thing to understand like, okay, he's far away, I'm here, there's a chair between me and it, I need to move, you know what I mean? And then like you're constantly sending updates of the picture you take so it knows like, okay, I've gotten closer, I've gotten further, like that kind of thing. Like that's what
That's so impressive.
yeah, I mean that's what I want to, that's where I really want to. And it's not like, I mean people are already doing this. I know like Google's doing like a very similar thing. But the idea is to like use the linguistics to like help it create that, I don't know, that movement logic. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, we talked about this a little bit. We've talked about education quite a bit on the show. I think what you're kind of exploring, Mike, and this is like new technology sort of, or at least it's open to the public in a new way. Learning how to interface with this technology, with AI, and learning like that, the linguistic sort of barriers that it's going to take us as humans to learn how to like interact with these things. So I think you're just in like the nitty gritty of how can we use these to our advantage? What prompts do we need to give it in order for it to respond to us a certain way? Um, and it just seems like a lot has changed. If you think about 6 months ago, before, I mean, I don't know, when did ChatGPT launch initially
I
to the
think
public?
November-ish.
November. Yeah, it does seem like a lot has changed, and just I mean, I hear it in all my work, like all the podcasts that I work on. People are doing episodes about it. You know, we did a ChatGPT video that seemed to be doing pretty well compared to like some of our other content. It's just like people really care about this, and I think there's a huge future in it. So it's fun that you're playing around
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's been fun. You know, it's interesting. I was thinking about it because like there's hype. And I was thinking like, okay, well, what is hype? I feel like hype is when the description of something doesn't necessarily meet, or the expectation doesn't meet the reality. You know what I'm
Oh.
saying?
Hmm.
So I feel like there is a lot of hype around ChatGPT because people are like, oh, it's gonna, take over the world, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think it's doing anything like that anytime soon,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
at all. Like it's just, I don't, you know.
Yeah.
So people are making just all types of crazy claims about what it can do, and I think that's like totally hype because there's so many. Just using it myself, I've seen lots of like issues with it. One of the issues that I've been hearing about is called, well, there's two terms. I'll use the kid-friendly version of the term, which is BSing. So there's BSing, and then the other term is hallucinating. And it's kind of like they're one and the same. All right. It's just two synonyms. And so if you've ever used ChatGPT for like 3 minutes, you'll realize that it does not get everything right at all. And it has no idea whether or not it has gotten something right or not.
Hmm.
Right. So, like, let's say you asked me a question and I didn't know the answer. I would just tell you, Josh, man, I don't know the answer, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But ChatGPT would BS you. It wouldn't know the answer, but it would come up with something to tell you, even though
Yeah.
it was totally wrong. And it would have no idea. It has zero representation of what is like
Yeah.
what it
That's
knows and doesn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like,
this. Yeah. That's
eh,
actually pretty interesting. The other day, I was using ChatGPT with my girlfriend, and we were looking up some of our friends, some bands, and I won't get too far into the details, but basically we asked ChatGPT about some public figures and to describe the controversies around these public figures, and it came out with a completely outlandish, like totally incorrect example of the controversies. It was like, we think this person was accused of all these things that were like had no truth. Like we couldn't even find any of that on the internet. So it was pretty interesting to see the AI sort of BS an answer and totally come up with just nonsense, like some totally inaccurate that could, something that could really cause some people some issue should these things become like public or whatever. Like
right,
it
right.
was
Well, I
really
mean,
interesting
they're
to see.
very much public, and
Or yeah,
you know what I'm saying. But like, and that's so like I feel like that's where I feel like the hype. I don't know, like the tool I think is very cool. It's just we got to be like very smart about using the tool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's my thought. Like we can't expect it to do things that we know it's going to kind of suck at. Like if we know what BS is, then you know what I'm saying? And like
Yeah.
so for like the code part, actually I don't know, you probably have not heard of GitHub Copilot. You might know what GitHub is, maybe. Uh
Yeah,
okay.
slightly. Yep.
All right. So for anybody out there, if you're watching, GitHub, if you don't know, is like a code repository. So there's just tons of code on that's stored on GitHub, and or it's a version control,
Mhm.
thing. Anyway, uh, they have a product they launched called Copilot,
Mhm.
and you can integrate it with different integrated development environments like IDEs. Like so like you've probably heard of or you may have heard of the Arduino IDE, right? So it's like the tool that you use to program,
Yeah.
right? So those kind of tools, well, they integrate with different tools like that. So for example, Visual Studio Code, it integrates with, and which is a common like IDE. Anyway, so you can like basically it'll come alongside you and help
Mhm.
write code with you. I
Yeah.
haven't used it yet. I just signed up yesterday for the trial because it sounded neat, and I
Mhm.
thought it'd be fun. So, I I don't know. I'm excited to try playing around with that. But okay, so what the reason I bring this up though is
Yeah.
that I don't know how much Copilot BS's. Guaranteed Copilot makes all types of errors in its code, right? And so like there still remains very much so a requirement for some type of domain understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to ask it questions, uh, then you need to like know the grounds for which something is like reasonable or unreasonable,
Yeah.
So okay, so here's a perfect example. Let's say a young kid is doing a math problem
Mhm.
and they get an answer like 3052, right? And they're multiplying together two single digits or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like that number should throw up like a wait a second, that doesn't pass just a basic heuristic of wow, that's got a lot of digits, but I only had, I was multiplying two small numbers. How did I get this big number? You know what I'm saying? Like the ability to gut check it
Yeah.
needs to be there, because if you can't gut check it, then you're not going to know like when it throws something at you that's just like way out of bounds. You're just gonna be like, oh yeah, it must be great.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. We got people talking in the chat here. Not sure if it's related. I was just gonna say, for this project though, Mike, you're planning to put up the code. Darp was asking about how to. Um, sorry, where is this? Just if you're gonna put up the code for the
oh
project at
yeah,
some point.
definitely. I'm just trying to clean it up a little bit. Um I know I've
Yeah.
been saying that for a
Eventually,
while.
we've talked about it. Like eventually, we'll have videos out and like people will
Oh yeah. I just want to
be
do it
sharing the
well
code.
enough that it's like easier to read, and because it's kind of like hack. I mean, let's see. I was working on it this morning. I was on vacation. Like let's see. What happened? Here's what happens, man. You're working on a piece of code, your brain is deep into it, and then you don't work on a piece of code for a while, and then you're like, where was I?
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of at that point. I can, let's see. I'm just going to share my screen. I'll share uh, the code right here. I mean, it's nothing special. It's really not too. Oh, what did I do there? Let me try opening that again. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if anybody can see it, right? It's like around 500 lines. I was trying to comment quite a bit. Well, actually, I take that back. I was not doing a very good job commenting, so that's one of the things I really want to add is like some good comments to make it a bit more readable. And I know I'm doing quite a bit of duplication in here of effort just to like try to get it to work.
Yeah.
But I'm just yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this is interesting to me. So, for those of you who don't know, I have very little experience programming, very little experience writing any software at all. But you have like how many lines is this total? We have like hundreds of lines.
Yeah, it's like 500 lines of code.
Okay, and this is just like this is like a normal size for just like an average project, right? It's like it can vary incredibly, but this isn't like excessively large. It's just a
Oh,
normal size.
no, no, this is very small in comparison to, like, most, very small and compared to most
Right.
projects. Like, I mean, it just depends. Like for a small project like this, this is probably pretty typical, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a screen, I've got, I'm not doing like tons of like validation checks and all this type of stuff. Like if you start adding, when you start adding all the stuff that you quote unquote should have, right?
Yeah.
Like, then it can really get like a lot of code.
What I'm
You
curious,
can get,
right. What's interesting to me about this, just like stepping back generally speaking, is like a lot of the logic here is going to be compounding on itself. And so if you spend an afternoon working on, lines 250 to 300 or whatever, give or take, when you jump back into it, you take 2 weeks off. You jump back in and you look at those lines of code. Is so much has been invested in it, you can just kind of read it, or do you look at it sometimes and just go, "What was I thinking? What is this code?"
oh
Like,
yeah, I know. I don't know. It depends. I guess both happens to me pretty
yeah,
frequently. I'm like, what was I thinking? Other times, like, oh, okay, yeah, that's, hopefully it's been written in a way that I can kind of like, you know,
yeah, that's
sort of, yeah. Oh, it was interesting though. I made such an interesting error on this.
mhm,
Um, that I finally figured out this morning. And this was kind of a fun error to run into. Um, or at least for me, this was a fun error to run into. Uh, so I Okay, so at first I thought the ChatGPT API was free because when you first sign up for the chat for OpenAI API,
mhm,
API stands for Application Programming Interface, and that's like, and you may or may not have heard of an API. That's kind of if if you're a company that provides data, let's say let's say you're a weather company and you like get a bunch of weather data from weather machines, right? And you collate all that information. You might have an API and you can sell access to that API. So people who want to like integrate that weather information into their application, they would pay you for access to the API, right? A lot of
yeah,
APIs are public, there's tons of public APIs that are really fun to play with. For example, NASA has a ton of APIs. You can get like Mars weather. I've played with those before. That's kind of fun.
no way.
Yeah.
Wait, like,
And
like an actual API call to the Mars weather, like you can,
well, I mean,
or
it's like an API call to some server on NASA where, they've collecting, I don't know how often they get different, parameters for like Mars weather and stuff. That's just one.
that's
Actually, if you want
yeah,
to look into APIs that are public and fun, check out NASA. They've got so many interesting APIs. A lot of them, they actually have a lot of uh they have a lot of image APIs, so if like you want to like find images of different things, you can like pull down images with different queries and that kind of thing. But they also have a lot of data tabular kind of
okay,
APIs. Anyway, okay, so I thought the open API, so the way you interact with ChatGPT is through an API that's provided by OpenAI. OpenAI is the name of the company that developed ChatGPT.
mhm,
And when you first sign up for the API as a developer, which anybody can do, it's free to sign up. They give you 18 credits. And in my head, I thought that like, oh, hey, sweet, they gave me 18 credits. Like probably every month they'll just give me 18 free credits, right? It's like $18 worth of usage, right?
mhm,
Because that's how like I have seen a lot of APIs work. There's like like a developer, like if you're a developer, then they give you free credits so that you can play around and test, right?
yeah,
With the expectation that, if you're working for a company, then that company is going to scale and you're going to have to make way more requests, right? And
yeah,
so then that's where they'll make their money back. Okay. So, long story short, they don't do that. They just give you 18 free credits the month you start. And then if you don't use those $18 worth of credits in that first month, then they expire. So
gotcha,
I think I played around with it a lot for the first month with the API with this project, right? I only used like 13 credits. The way they charge is by token usage, and a token is roughly like 75% of one word. So one word would be like 0.75 tokens, if that makes
okay,
sense. Uh, and so it's like point zero. It's like depending on the model you use, it's like 6 cents per 1,000 tokens. Okay. So if ChatGPT responds with 1,000, let's just say roughly 1,000, or let's say it responds with 750 words.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I would get, then, the AP, you'd get charged like 6 cents.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So as long as you're having like these short little conversations, anyway. Okay. So where am I going
Interesting.
with it?
Yeah.
Here's where I'm going with this. I thought it was free. I came back from vacation. My credits expired. I didn't realize that. I thought I was just going to keep getting a developer free, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to run the application. It's not working. I'm like, what gives? I'm supposed to get responses back from this thing. What's broken? So I start diving into the code and troubleshooting. I'm like, no, the connection must be bad. This, that, the other. And then like I went back to then I just kind of like, I thought, okay, maybe the authentication wasn't working correctly. And so I was playing around with that. And so I changed some code down and I put in this troubleshooting code. Okay. It was just test code to troubleshoot.
Mhm.
And then I realized once I put that troubleshoot code in that, oh, it led me down the roadmap of shoot. Nope. I need to put a credit card to the API so I can recharge my account, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
Okay. So I did all that. And then like, I think it was today. Yeah, it was this morning. I'm like, okay, well, I should, I'm starting to develop again. And I'm like, why am I still having issues here? I know I'm connecting, blah, blah, blah. And what kept happening is it kept like making the call over and over and over again. And I'm like, why is it doing this? Then I realized that the test code that I had put in there was creating an error down. So it was like basically the test code was clearing out the response and
Okay.
I was checking for the response to come back. And since the test code was clearing the response, it was going in this continual loop. It was saying, oh, no response back. Go ahead and retry to
Oh, okay.
ask again. And so like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was funny to me. That logical error I made was funny because it's like, I was using test code to debug it. I figured out what was wrong. I should have like removed my test code. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
But
But I
that
improved
created a
my,
different issue that
yes,
you had to then
exactly. It
troubleshoot
was
for.
like, oh gosh, man. So, it was kind of funny, but
Wow. Do you have any sense of how long you've worked on this project? Like, it's been a few weeks, right? And you're working on
yeah,
it a
it
couple
has.
hours.
I don't know, man.
That's so fun.
It's been so much fun to work on. Like, I've really just enjoyed sitting down and programming it. It's probably one of the most fun projects I've had working on for a while because it's just pulling in so many different things. It's pulling in, like, I got to connect a keyboard,
Mhm.
like, which has really nothing to do with ChatGPT, and I went through, I bought like 9 keyboards or something
Yeah.
to try to finally figure out like what am I doing wrong, only to realize that I'm a total idiot and I like, I could have had that figured out and like if I would have spent a little more time reading, I could have spent less money. But anyway, they were just Goodwill, you know,
Right.
keyboards anyway. But anyway, so that was fun. Like getting to use a keyboard library was kind of cool. And I could see use in that in other projects where you want to have an input and use a keyboard. Like, so it was good to learn that.
Yeah.
I like using OLED displays because they're so cheap. And I have found that like getting information to display like you want on an OLED screen uh, takes a little bit of crafting, like a little bit of time, because it's just kind of like always a little bit custom,
Sure.
because you're making your own application.
Yeah.
Um, so that was fun. I've been using the Universal Graphics Library 2. There's a Universal Graphics Library, and then there's a Universal Graphics Library 2. It's like U8G2 is what it's called.
Okay.
But that's been fun to use. So I've been enjoying using that. Steve, one of the instructors slash administrators at PEA is the one who introduced me to that. He uses it all the time. He uses the original one. He doesn't use 2. I think he's told me that he feels like there's a speed issue with the second one. So he just keeps using the first one. Anyway,
Okay.
so I enjoyed using that. And then for making the API call, I've been using Arduino JSON, which is another library, which has been a lot of fun to use that library. So that's been cool. And then just using the ESP32 to make Wi-Fi calls. Like that's, I've done it before. But I'm trying to do it with the least amount of other libraries possible. So that's been kind of fun. I don't know. It's been pretty cool. So
Yeah.
just a lot of different little things, like trying to integrate them all together. And it's been like a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not sure if I understand this, but People's asking, did you complete the keyboard library with all the keys in your country code?
okay, that's a good question. So there was a couple libraries out there. I used the Keyboard Advanced library.
Okay.
Yeah, Keyboard Advanced is what it comes up. It's made by a guy, or the developer is a guy who works in the UK. And it's like a development company,
Yeah.
embedded development company, but he's the one. Anyway, they actually have a in the library, there's a function where you can specify the country code or the country of your keyboard. And I think like it handles that. I only tried it with an English, like I have just a US keyboard. So that's what I've been using.
Yeah.
And that's the default. So I didn't specify, but I know there is a specification for like different keys based on the keyboard. So there must be like some, translation layer where it maps, to a different keyboard. So that's a great question though. I mean, like that's, yeah, I don't know, but so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Here's just a random one from earlier. Darp asked, do you think Arduino's decision of launching the Uno Rev 4 just 2 months ago after Giga is good? I don't know if you want to comment on Arduino's release, but I'm just interested. I haven't heard about the
Yeah,
Rev
I'm not
4.
sure. I didn't know they've actually already released it. Maybe they released it early in India. I'm not sure they've released it in the US yet. Maybe they just did it recently here. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But hey, there is something I wanted to talk about, Josh.
Yeah.
I've been working on somebody. It was actually Nara. He was a member. He's been on the show before. Well, he's been in the chat on the show before. He is a electronics professor, electronics and embedded professor in Singapore. I think he spends his time between like India and Singapore. Anyway, he's been working on like developing this. He's been working on developing like this electronics kit to help college students, like introduction to different circuits and stuff. Anyway, he sent me one of the kits and I've been playing around with it. It's been kind of cool. But so it looks something like this is basically, you can see here's a board here, right? Like this. And it's got these Velcro strips and then these different modules.
Yeah.
And there's like a ton of different modules that you can connect it to. I don't know if you can kind of see this. Nice. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like there's just a bunch of different different modules, like, and then it's got a bunch of different exercises that it has people go through.
Yeah.
So it does like a wire tester. It's got a little fan, a water level indicator, a tilt sensor, music doorbell, motion detector, solar panel thing, a 555 timer, op amps, 7-segment displays. But what's neat, what I like about it is he actually has like this whole manual that you kind of work with and go through.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of fun to take a look at. Like, I don't know. I like diving into stuff like that every once in a while. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. So that's not a breadboard. That's just like a wooden board.
Yeah, I think it's actually made out of what do you call the stuff that a PCB is made out of?
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah, it's just and these modules have little they just have Velcro attached to the back of it. I don't know if you can, maybe not. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, and then it just sticks to it.
That's pretty
cool. Then there's a bunch of wires, and you end up like, daisy chaining them all together and that kind of thing. But
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, that's been kind of fun to play with.
Nice.
Let's see. The other thing is, like, I was out on vacation and then I got a bunch of stuff in the mail.
Yeah.
My folks live close by, so I had them just like, watch my mail and stuff. And so I get back and there's all these different like things, and I'm like, what did I order? I don't even remember ordering stuff. So I thought I just
Not even sure. It's just
I
a
don't know.
live unboxing of
I know
all the
unboxing.
random.
That's pretty lame, huh? I'm just
No,
gonna
that's
unbox, dude.
those go hard. That's good.
All right, forgive me, everybody, for unboxing, but this one's from SparkFun. SparkFun's a parts supplier in the U.S. What did I get? I think this is a level shifter.
Wow, I'm curious. I'm sure people can relate to just like a bunch of random small boxes coming in.
Yeah, I
Different
know.
parts.
Okay, yeah. So this is a voltage level shifter. I did know what this one was. So the reason I got this was because it's funny on the keyboard library in the comments, they do a pretty good job commenting that keyboard library. He The author mentions like you need to use a level converter, you know what I mean, or you're going to mess up your board, right? Well, I wasn't using a level converter because I was using I'm using an ESP32 which runs on 3.3 volts, and
Mhm.
I haven't had any issues whatsoever. And so I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I want to, I don't want to do things not, I don't want to fry my board. So anyway, that's why I got that. All right.
What's a PLC? Is that something level converter?
It's a programmable logic controller.
Okay.
Um, it's like
Matthew just
used.
mentioned.
It's a technology that's used in like industrial automation controls.
Okay.
So I've never done any PLC programming myself. I think it uses what's called ladder logic.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, as I think Matthew, or maybe it wasn't Matthew, somebody had mentioned they were sold out. Interestingly enough,
Oh.
the Arduino
Oh
has
yeah.
been Arduino's been trying to get into or Arduino has been getting into like kind of like professional industrial type applications.
Yeah.
And like if you go to the Arduino website, you'll notice that they have like your traditional Arduino, which is for makers, hobbyists, like that kind of group, and then it's got an education, which is more for like teachers, and then it's got a pro, I think is what they call it, and that's for industry. And they've got some really interesting stuff. I have some of the boards they're selling, but they introduced an Arduino PLC, and they actually have a PLC IDE. So it's an IDE specifically for the PLCs. I
Really?
don't know how that works. Like I'm really kind of curious about it. But like, so imagine if you're at some huge plant, right? You're at some like manufacturing plant or something like that. And
Yeah.
certain things need to happen at different times, or that kind of thing. These PLCs are used, and it can be the way I understand it. Again, somebody can reach out and slap me if I feel like, I'm pulling a ChatGPT. I'm BSing right now.
Just kind
No,
of giving an
like
answer. Yeah.
this is how I roughly understand it. All right.
Right.
Basically, you can be sure that things are going to happen at the very specific moment you want it to. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So like when timing matters, it's not like it's not like, it doesn't like kind of get close to the time. It's
Yeah.
like, no, this is the time. It
Okay.
shall happen now.
That's
Kind of thing.
a
But
whole separate IDE for that. That's pretty interesting.
yeah,
Seems like
I
a
don't know.
lot.
I don't know anything about it. Okay, so what is this?
What we got next? Should I play a little music in the background? Some
I don't
unboxing
know.
music.
Into the wind. I have no idea. Oh, this is Seed Studio. Seed Studio is a Chinese electronics supplier. They make PC. You can have them make PCBs for you. What is this? Let's see. Static presence module. I think this can determine if a human being is in front of the sensor or something.
Whoa.
I think maybe I'm again.
This is for the project, yeah.
You know what? Seed, I signed up to their stinking newsletter years ago, and I have a problem, just like all the people listening. You see something cool and you kind of get it, like, ooh, that might be interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you can use it here. This is I don't know how many of these I got. Anyway, I don't know what it's doing. Maybe we should look that up. I'm pretty sure it's sensing like
Yeah, what's it called?
it's a static presence module light, millimeter wave sensor human. So I think it is detecting the presence of a person. Maybe you could use it at like a door, right? You'd use it at a door and it'd be like, yep, a person's there, a person's not there. Yeah, E-field measurement. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, that could be it. All right, so that was one thing. What else did I get from them? I know I ordered some ESP cams from them.
Is an easy-to-use, cost-effective choice for various human presence detecting applications. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
So you can spy stuff. Yeah.
So the AI can know whether or not to. Oh, I also got some AC voltage sensors. Why did I get those? I don't know why I got those. Yeah, so like, let's see. AC voltage sensor, kind of like determine if you're, AC or not.
Dude, this is just adult Legos. I mean, you're opening fun little packages, all these colors. You're gonna build something
adult
sweet out of
Legos.
it,
That's
right?
so right. That's literally what this is. I think these are all the same thing. Why did I get 4 of them? I have no idea.
That's so funny.
I have a feeling I had a reason to get that, and now I can't remember what it was. It was probably somebody talking on the forum, on the PEA forum, and I was like, oh, they're using that. I want to get one too to check it out, blah, blah, blah. It might have been that.
So as you're just like doing your week and your programming stuff and you're, dreaming up different projects, are you just like going to like an Amazon and just ordering like in the moment? You're like, oh, I should get that. And then you go grab it. And then you kind of like, it's not like you have this long premeditated order necessarily. You're just like, oh, I need one of those. And then you grab it.
Yeah, I guess it depends. If it depends at what stage I'm working on a project, if like I'm developing, like if I'm developing some very clear specifications for something, then I'll be more picky and kind of develop a a bill of materials, right? Like one by one, like, okay, I'm looking for exactly this. And then I'll be a little more tenacious in my searching out something.
Yeah.
But if it's like, usually if it's somebody like in the forum and I see somebody using a part and I think that module or part or whatever is neat, if they have a link to it, I'll just, I'll go pick it up if I think I could use it at some point.
That's cool.
All right. One last one here. DSD Tech Direct. I don't even know. Never heard of them.
I love this. It's just like you ordering a bunch of things and not knowing what they are, and then they'll fit into some project.
I'm wondering because like a lot of stuff from I have found that a lot of stuff from Seed Studio, they always have it on like they'll like pre-sell it, I think maybe.
Okay.
And so you don't get, and then when it does ship, it's always like 90 days from China or something like that. I'm like, all right, whatever. Oh, this is an HC05 Bluetooth module with a button. So basically it's like you can connect it to you can connect stuff to via Bluetooth with this. And then you connect your you can use it to connect like an Arduino to a Bluetooth, right? It's kind of the idea. So like if you had a Nano or a Uno or something like that.
That is Bluetooth, like you could use that for your phone. You could
yeah, man. Yep, phone. Totally.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, there's like Bluetooth Classic, and then there's Bluetooth Low Energy or BLE. Different implementations. It's actually really, really complicated, like writing code for Bluetooth. But luckily, what's cool about like the Arduino environment is they've got all types of libraries to really help like make it easier. So you can write something like, okay, hey, I want to pair the device. Like you just, it's, maybe a couple lines of code to pair a device.
Yeah.
Like the code behind those functions though is not, you know what I mean? Like it's very intense.
Yeah.
And I don't pretend to know the least bit about the code behind it. To be honest, I haven't worked much with Bluetooth in general. That's part of the reason I got these. But also the ESP32 is Bluetooth enabled. So, I want to like start working with those libraries more. And I don't know. My guess is this. Here's what's interesting about code libraries, Josh,
Mm-hmm.
is that when a lot of code libraries that are dealing with the same thing, they're going to have very similar methods or functions to like do the thing you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So like this HC05 module, it probably just I'm probably going to use some Bluetooth library, right, to connect with it, right? Maybe like the Arduino. I'm sure Arduino makes a Bluetooth library, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a function there that might be like Bluetooth pair or pair device or something like that, right? And I can learn that library, right? And I can figure out how to use it with this module.
Yeah.
And then I could jump over to the ESP32, and they're going to have a completely different, like the code base, the actual code that's written for the
Yep.
ESP32 is going to be different, right?
Yep.
But the functions, they're going to intentionally use functions that mirror that that other common library. You know what I mean? So even though like you've invested time in learning one, there can be a lot of overlap because if you're making a new library, you want people to use it, you're going to be trying to like make it you're going to be trying to make it like so that the programmer is going to think like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because I'm used to
Yeah.
using it somewhere else. So that's kind of interesting.
It
Something I
almost
found.
what comes to mind is like different dialects of the same language, or like different, versions of the same language. Like you can kind of get there, but there's plenty of new stuff to learn depending.
Yeah. Oh, totally, man. All right. Well, I don't know, dude. Parts.
It's the day in the life, slice of life.
Yeah, no. Glad I have a rack. I can put all this stuff in a rack, and what I need to do though is I need to like keep I know we've talked about it before, but I try to keep the purchase order with it so that I know, what the piece is, and I'm not trying to like figure out
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, do you want to check out a member project? And
Yeah, man, let's do it.
cool. I'm gonna put this link for anyone else who's curious. But awesome. So I know we've checked out quite a few of these now. I wonder what.
Have we looked at the aquaponics one? It's
I don't think so.
yeah, let's check that one out. I think this is here. Here, check this out. There's actually one of our writers wrote this. He said he couldn't help himself. He wrote a poem for it. This was a guy at the very top above that image there. It says, Demetrius, quite ingenious. How does your garden grow with Arduinos and relay modules and pretty tanks all in a row? Yeah, he was like, I couldn't help myself. Had to write some prose in there. I was like, no, that's great, man.
Nothing.
But
I love the combination of these two worlds.
yeah, no, but Demetrius basically the problem was he couldn't he had to do something and he had to work when he had to do it, and that wasn't going to work out, and so he wanted to like automate it essentially.
Okay.
And that's kind of what he did with Arduino and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I've never really done any aquaponics stuff, but
So what exactly? Feeding or cleaning? Or
I
what's
want to say I can't. It's been a while since I've looked at this project, to be honest with you, but I think what he's doing. Well, there it goes. It says he feeds fish from a hopper. He turns on lights on and off for plants. He pumps water through filters, and then he fills the plant tanks with water.
Dang.
Yeah, and I feel what happened was something like the scope on his project grew because
Yeah.
I think initially he just wanted to do one thing, and then he decided to do more than that kind of thing. So yeah, but I don't know. To me, this is the kind of fun stuff you can do with Arduino once you kind of like get some basics down and that kind of thing. So
yeah, what a practical application. I have some goldfish, but I'm gonna leave, so I need to figure out a way to fix that.
yeah,
That's cool.
so cool, man. Well,
Nice.
Josh, why don't we call it, man?
Yeah, been a few weeks. Good to be back with everyone.
Yeah.
There's definitely some questions we didn't answer in the chat. Maybe we'll Mike and I will talk about that and answer some of those next week. I appreciate all the commentary and comments and questions from people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sorry, I was just blabbing on. I should have paid closer attention to the chat too. But yeah, cool, awesome. Hey, thanks everybody. We'll be here next week and look forward to hanging out. Sweet.
Thanks everyone.
Take it easy. Bye.